Right now, Venezuela isn't just in crisis. It's in one of the most dangerous turning points of its entire modern history. For years, the story was already bad. One of the richest countries in Latin America, sitting on the world's largest oil reserves, collapsed into hyperinflation, blackouts, shortages, and mass migration. Millions of people left. Those who stayed learned to survive with unreliable electricity, empty pharmacies, and salaries that couldn't buy a week of food. Politically, the country was locked. Nicolas Maduro stayed in power through a mix of loyal security forces, control over courts and election authorities, and heavily questioned votes. The 2024 presidential election was widely seen as rigged. Opposition candidates banned, results opaque, protests crushed. For a lot of Venezuelans, it felt like the future had been stolen and sealed away. And then, in early 2026, everything snapped. After months of threats and military posturing, the United States launched airstrikes on key Venezuelan military sites and carried out a covert special forces operation in Caracas. In a nighttime raid that looked like a movie, U.S. troops captured Nicolas Maduro and his wife and flew them to New York to face narco-terrorism and drug trafficking charges. One day, Venezuela had an entrenched, authoritarian president. The next, that president was suddenly in a foreign courtroom. Inside Venezuela, that didn't magically fix anything. It created a vacuum. Maduro's vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, quickly claimed continuity, calling the operation an illegal kidnapping and insisting the government is still legitimate. The opposition, which had been demanding free elections for years, is trying to position itself as the path to a democratic transition, but knows that being seen as riding in on the back of a U.S. military raid is politically toxic for many people. On the streets of Caracas, Maracaibo, Valencia, and countless smaller towns, the big questions aren't about legal theory or geopolitics. They're brutally simple. Will there be more violence? Will food and fuel get harder to find? Who's actually in charge of my neighborhood tomorrow? Economically, the country is still bleeding. Inflation, which never really went away, is surging again as the currency loses value and businesses panic. Public services like healthcare, water, and transport are barely functioning in many regions. Remittances, money sent home from relatives who fled abroad, are a lifeline for millions of families. In some border areas and remote states, armed groups and criminal gangs tax fuel, control smuggling routes, and act as de facto authorities. Over 6.5 million Venezuelans are now living outside the country, scattered across Colombia, Brazil, Peru, Chile, the US, and Europe. For them, this moment is a mix of hope and dread. Hope that maybe, finally, something will change. Dread that things could get even worse for the family members they left behind. Internationally, the world is split. Washington calls the operation a victory for democracy and a blow against the criminal regime. Some governments quietly approve, seeing a chance to open up Venezuela's oil and rebuild ties under new leadership. Others, including many in Latin America and beyond, are warning that a foreign military raid to seize a sitting president shreds international law and sets a precedent that could come back to haunt everyone. The United Nations is debating it. Legal scholars are arguing over whether this was law enforcement or naked regime change. Think tanks are gaming out scenarios: a negotiated transition, a military-backed successor regime, or prolonged, messy instability. But for ordinary Venezuelans, the reality is simpler and harsher. Prices are rising. Power still cuts out. Medicine is scarce. The people who used to run the country are facing trial abroad, and nobody really knows what comes next. So what is going on in Venezuela right now? A long, grinding collapse has just collided with a sudden external shock. The old ruler is gone, but the system he sat on top of, the security forces, the party networks, the economic chaos, the humanitarian emergency, is still very much there. Over the next months, the crucial question won't just be who replaces Maduro. It will be, does this moment become the start of a real transition to a more open, stable Venezuela? Or just another chapter in a crisis that keeps rewriting itself, while ordinary people keep paying the price?